things about being a graduate gemologist is you can kind of identify some stones and such, but at the same time you kind of develop a love and a passion for stones that aren't normally seen faceted or are just kind of, I don't want to say on the rarer side, but you know, they have other uses, they have other components. There's reasons why you wouldn't see it faceted. So once you do see faceted stones like that, or they come from a select region, you get a little excited about it. It's kind of nice to do. So that's what we have today, are some fairly unique stones that aren't really seen that often. So the one that we have here in front of us is triplite. Now, if you look in the description, if you see the description, it says Skardu triplite. Skardu, I believe, is the region that it's from. So on a stone like this, you know, one of the things that they'll say, like if you look up triplite, is triplite, they say it's commonly, you know, confused with rhodochrosite. Now, when you look at this faceted stone going around, it doesn't look anything like rhodochrosite. You would never confuse it with rhodochrosite. A lot of times it will have a reddish color to it, so you can confuse it with that. Now, this one, it comes from the Greek word triplos, which basically means threefold. This stone has three distinct cleavage planes. So that's kind of where that naming comes from, triplite, triplos, for all the cleavage planes. Again, we say this a lot, it's not really inventive in how they name stuff. It just isn't. So this one's kind of a rarer stone. You don't see it faceted too terribly often. It's got that really nice big orange color to it. I'm obligated by law to refer to it as big orange in color because we are in East Tennessee, home of the Tennessee Volunteers. So you do have to say that. This is a 1 carat and it's a 6.5 by 5 millimeters. So, you know, technically calibrated, not a standard calibration, but it's close enough. And it's a rectangular cushion. This is $350. So it's that mid-level pricing that you see with kind of a rare stone. It kind of commands that price. Now, you don't see this kind of stuff fashioned a lot of times. Sorry, checking an email. Emails never stop coming. When the stuff is kind of more rare to be fashioned and faceted, it kind of puts that price up a little bit. That's something that I talked about before, that on stones like these that you don't see faceted, it's not that the clarity's not there to facet it. The specimen might be nice enough that you wouldn't want to facet it. But as we learned with, you know, Justin Prim when he was here, you have to find someone who knows the material and is able to shape the material, because someone can cut something and shape it, but to get a polish on a stone that they might not know. Like, I was surprised with Justin Prim when he said that one of the stones he hates cutting is kunzite, because it's so hard to get the polish on it and it breaks apart easily and kind of peels backwards once you hit those planes. So it's surprising. So something like the triplite, you have to find someone who knows how to cut it. So triplite, it's a rare phosphate mineral. So phosphates, everybody has probably heard the term phosphate. A lot of times it's used as a fertilizer. It can be used as a preservative. It has all kinds of uses that, you know, it makes it so when you have a mineral that is made out of something like that, like zinc based, or it's found in zinc mines, or phosphate minerals, they just grind it up. They're not looking for this. They're looking just for phosphate to be used in other applications. So, you know, if they're going in, you know, anti-corrosion agents, cosmetics, fungicides, ceramics, all kinds of things. It's even used in metallurgy. So other things that are like, you know, phosphate-bearing minerals are turquoise, apatite, wavellite, pyromorphite, you know, in those same families. So when you think of all those are other ones outside of apatite. I'm looking. Amblygonite is another one. Those are really, apatite, amblygonite, and this are the only ones that you really ever see faceted. Others, the wavellite, you'll only see in its mineral form. You might see it cabbed up sometimes. I actually answered an email this morning from a guy who is one of the only people that I've ever seen cab wavellite, and it's because he stabilized it and then started cabbing it. And when I saw it at a mineral show, I had to buy one because I'd never seen one before. And I like wavellite a lot. I like Wave-A-Lot a lot. I like Wave-A-Lite a lot. And it's because it has radial sprays, and it looks really cool. And you know, a lot of times it'll be botryoidal on top of something, sitting on top of the rock. But when that rock gets exposed, it's almost like a spray that, you know, comes out on it. So it's really interesting. So he was able to take that spray and stabilize it inside of matrix and then cab around it, and it's a really unique stone. So on the Triplite, Triplite is it's a rare fluorohydroxide phosphate. Don't ask me what it means. I'm just explaining. I'm sure someone in the comments can explain what that means. Again, that's why I say with gemology and being a gemologist, I just know that this is rare. I've only seen a few of them in my time, you know, 20 plus years of this, and it just really good color. It's semi-transparent, has a nice luster to it, so why wouldn't I want everybody to see it? It forms in, you know, phosphate-rich granite pegmatites. So it's formed in high temperature hydrothermal veins. So these are really unique pieces. They really are. If you see Triplite out on the market, color might vary a little bit. You know, it's a manganese-bearing phosphate, so the color might vary just a little bit. And again, you might see reddish ones, but this is a stone that I can pretty much guarantee you're not going to see too many of them out on show floors. It just won't happen. This is something where you're going to have to go to the tents in the back of a show. It's going to be more rare stone dealers who will have this stuff. I can think of maybe 3 people that I would look to that would have faceted Triplite. And it would be the same with the next stone that's coming up. Tantalite. Now I believe I've shown Tantalite before. I was saying that to Shane before we did it because one of the things that, I apologize about that. One of the things about this that stuck out to me when I was saying it and made me think about it is, you know, the main chemical element in this stone is tantalum. So that's kind of where, right when I read tantalum, I was like, ooh, this might be, you know, I think I've shown this before, which isn't bad. It's a beautiful stone. It's kind of got a brownish color to it, which is really nice. And so tantalum is a heat and acid resistant material, you know, so that's highly sought after. You could say that this, just like the one before it, is generally crushed up to look for the tantalum. They're not thinking, I need to find the mineral specimen, I need to facet this. They're just trying to find that. I'm going to stop that turntable because I want it to stop. So this one is chemically similar to columbite. So columbite is one that, columbite is kind of an interesting one right now because as tektites go higher and higher in price, something like columbite is sought after because it kind of resembles those tektites. So it's an affordable variation on that. It's almost like it would be a simulant to a tektite. So with this color on this nice reddish brown color, it's almost like a brick color to it. You know, columbite and this, they're often grouped together as one mineral called coltan or columbite tantalite. Now, coltan is bad news. It's really controversial in how it's been mined. You know, everybody knows kind of about the DRC and the Congo and what goes on there. It's a really volatile place, but the mining of coltan that has happened there has kind of just caused upheaval. Now, tantalum, they chase this stuff because especially the coltan, like it's a cobalt, but it just kind of, they're chasing after this stuff to try and get minerals. You know, they used to do it with cell phone batteries, and this was like a byproduct of all that. So you see it, and now that they changed up those cell phone batteries, it's really changed how all this works. So coltan, if you see that, run away from it. It's not good. That's bad stuff. Tantalite, though, has a much higher specific gravity than columbite does. So that's the one way that you can really separate them. So I think everybody probably knows what specific gravity is. I know Barber does. So it's basically water and weight minus water and air gets you the specific gravity. I think that's what it is. I have it written down somewhere. But basically, you weigh it on its own just out in the world, and then you put it it's a little dropper kind of that sits inside the water, and you weigh it there, and then you subtract and then divide, and then you get your specific gravity. That's also known as heft. That's an easy way that you can tell. You know, if you have CZ versus diamond, you just kind of hold them in your hands. If they're the same cut, one will feel heavier, and it'll be the CZ. The CZ will feel a lot heavier than the diamond. It's a good way to separate from plastics. Sometimes specific gravity is your last hope to be like, what do I have here? Because there's so many minerals, and especially faceted gems are so similar. I did a video with Rebecca not too long ago. It'll be coming out soon on carvings. And one of the stones, you know, two gemologists sitting at a table, we took the stone and we both put it up against our cheek because we knew it would be so cool, you know, to the touch. So there's just little things that you can do to check to start the stone rolling down the hill to say what you have, because it's kind of systematic that you base stuff off. So this is a 5.1 millimeter round, and it's a 1.42 carat. So that's something interesting, even going back to that triplite to say. So that triplite was a 6 millimeter by a 5 millimeter, 6.5 millimeter by a 5 millimeter, and it was a 1 carat, right? So this is almost a whole millimeter smaller, and it's got 42 points higher. So it does have a lot of heft to it. It has a high specific gravity. This is a really dense stone, but it's got great color. And I think that you can see it as it's you know, off that turntable, because I know when I picked it up and when I look down at it from the side, I see more of that orangey red color to it. You know, I mentioned it before that it's a brick color to it. So when you have some of these more rare stones, and especially one like this, you know, you will see differences once you pick it up, because like you can see on the table right there, that strong reflection coming off of it. Sometimes you would see color, but when you have these metallic sheens sometimes, because like this one, tantalum, you know, it's extracted from metal a lot of times, and it's used in alloys for strength and higher, it has a higher melting point. You know, it's using glass to increase the index of refraction. So you see that when you see the light come back off of it, that high metallic sheen, why it would be used for something like that, you know. And one of the big things that it has, which is great, is it's used in surgical steel because it doesn't irritate skin. You know, when you see surgical steel and things like that, and you know, even stainless when you're doing your earring backs, you look for surgical steel when you have, you know, really sensitive skin. So that's what the tantalum's good for. I've got a random hair somewhere, I can feel it wiggling on my arm, and I hate it. It's the one good thing about having a long-haired cat. There will always be, you know, something poking you. So, I also know that I did tantalum before, because tantalum is really big, found a lot of times in Brazil. So if you're wanting to search out some tantalum and try and find tantalite so you can facet it yourself, I'd start in Brazil. They pretty much have everything. I even looked at Minas Gerais, which is, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong and I apologize, but like it has mine in the title. So like Brazil, it's the place to go. Someday I'll go there. I don't know when. It might be for Carnival. It might be for a concert. There's just no telling. There's just no telling. So I got my little cheat sheet here. Sorry. You know, when I come out with a cheat sheet like this, you probably can't see all the words on it and stuff. I'll try and get it in there for you, Shane. It tells you how rare some of these stones are, because I just don't know it off the top. You have to do research sometimes on some of these more rare stones, because even in gemology, even 23 years at Jewelry Television, I haven't seen these stones, so I don't know them off the top of my head. It's kind of fun. It's exciting that, you know, you get stones in here, and then once you have to start talking about them, you're like, I don't know what to tell you. Well, give me 25, 30 minutes, and we'll figure something out, because again, it's just something that we don't see it that often. But you know, once you become a graduate gemologist and you work with all these other gemologists, you get excited. You want to seek out these really rare stones, and that's what we're trying to do. So this next stone, orthoclase feldspar. So feldspar, you know, I hadn't really It's not that I dislike feldspars. I don't want to say that, because I like moonstone, I like sunstone, I like agilurescence, I like a lot of stuff involved in feldspar. But it wasn't until I had my notes looked over by another gemologist, because I wanted to make sure that I didn't come up here and look a fool, because there are some smart people that watch these shows. A lot smarter than me in some cases. Probably in a lot of cases, not gonna lie. I don't want to look like a fool, so I had someone else do it. So he draws out this picture talking about feldspars, and it's kind of like a triangle, and he's like, okay, on this side you have the sodium, on this side you have the phosphate, you know, more alkali, all this stuff. And in my head I'm sitting here thinking, well, this is just like isomorphous transfer with garnets. Like, why don't I love feldspars more? To know that once a chemical comes in, or, you know, an agent comes in, it's gonna change what type of feldspar that is. So my love of feldspars has just been renewed. I'm going all in on feldspars. You heard it here first. I'm loving feldspars again. Yeah, Shane just said it. I went looking for sunstones in Oregon, so obviously I like feldspar. So it's born again. Garnet, you've been warned. Like, you might be moving over just a little bit. So what's the great thing about orthoclase feldspar? You know, it's a tectosilicate. And it's the main tectosilicate, or important tectosilicate, that forms igneous rocks. So this group, the tectosilicates, it comprises 75% of the Earth's crust. So when you look at this rock, this gemstone next to me, that doesn't look like the Earth's crust. So for something this translucent that you can then facet, it means a lot, especially when it comes from the Earth's crust, right? So kind of a special rock. Now, this is a 10.2 by 8.4 millimeter rectangular cushion, and it's just under 3.5 carats. It's 3.45 carats. So the great thing about feldspars is they come in a lot of different colors. They have a lot of different inclusions inside of them. They can give a lot of optical properties. Now this one, orthoclase, it basically means straight fracture, because it has two cleavage planes that are at right angles to each other. So one of the things that I really like about feldspar, like, if any of you have ever used a polariscope, which I believe we have polariscopes on the website, at least little traveling ones, they're really cool because they show double refractive stones. They'll kind of blink and you'll see a shadow on it. That's Shane's go-to. Shane's go-to when he identifies a stone, when he's just not sure, his first start is a polariscope, because it tells you a lot. You can find out a lot of things on it. With a feldspar, what's really cool, especially like yellow labradorite, is you'll see like shadows, but you'll also see weird, almost like prismy colors. Now, the prismy color is what you're looking for on a doubly refractive stone, because that's its optic character. But on feldspar or yellow labradorite, that's not its optic character that's popping up. It's a twinning plane. So what's a twinning plane? Twinning plane is basically when a crystal's growing and then it just turns around and starts growing on itself again. It's really unique. And feldspars are something that show that. So that's something, like, I'm kind of seeing it in this orthoclase as it goes around. It almost looks like it has a veil inside of it. Now, a veil is just kind of like an inclusion, like a cluster of liquid, or it could be liquid droplets, could be a partially healed fracture. It'll look fuzzy and hazy. So when I say veil, that's what I mean. I see like a little fuzzy haze going in a straight line. I'm not sure that I'm seeing it or resembles it, but twinning plane, that's kind of what I'm seeing. Shane just said he saw it. So once you recognize it, you see it a lot. So this is a type of potassium feldspar, also known as K feldspar. And if I had to guess, K is, I don't know. There we go. That's what I was about to say. Shane said it in my ear. It's the chemical symbol for potassium. So on the element chart. We need to get an element chart behind this so we can point to it and say, because that's what's interesting is, like, when you look in those blocks of chemistry, you see a lot of things that, you know, obviously, are similar to each other and run together. So K feldspar. The gem known as moonstone, now that one is also largely comprised of orthoclase. So that's the thing. Whatever is causing that agilurescence on the top of a moonstone is not present here. So that's why it's just orthoclase. It's an orthoclase feldspar. It's not the sexiest of stones because you can see it as it sits here. It's colorless. It doesn't really have anything happening to it that like makes it jump out. It doesn't have any kind of color sheen to it. But to me, just looking at it here on my hand, it's very pleasing to the eye because it almost looks like it has a silver color to it. It's really just kind of a nice light color, really cool color. And you know, with other potassium feldspars, orthoclase, you know, it's common in raw material. You know, it's used in the manufacturing glasses, some ceramics, like porcelain, and it's used as a scouring powder. Ugh, sorry, I can't really say anything. And one interesting thing about orthoclase, it's one of the defining minerals on the Mohs hardness scale. You know, it has a hardness of 6, but it's one of them that they use as like a defining thing. So if you're looking to say, what's it like, because that's one of the things about the Mohs hardness scale is they'll use example stones. And orthoclase is one of them. It really is a unique and pretty stone. Now, just under 3.5 carats, 3.45 carats. I just dropped the gem jar, so I'm gonna have to hit the elevator button here in a second to pick that up. You'll probably see me in the background of, oh, it's over there. I'm not going to get that right now. We'll get it in post, as they say in the world. I know a few of these production terms. They hate it when I talk about them. You know, that stone fell down to the lower third of everything, and then, or not the stone, the gem jar. So it's up there. We're going to have to clean it up in post. That's all it is to it. Shane, I'm not even going to look over towards the booth because he might be standing up, rolling his eyes at me. So I'm going to put this stone out next to it because when you look at them together, not a huge difference, right? You're kind of looking at it and you're like, they look like the same stone, just a different cut. One has a little bit, you know, brighter colorless to it. We'll use that term. So I wanted to put it out there as an example because they're both feldspars. So that goes back to like, I'm loving feldspars again, especially when, you know, I talk about garnet. Like you look at these and you're just like, what am I looking at here? Why are they different? So this one is orthoclase, and then the smaller oval is oligoclase. So that's a mouthful. I'm probably not going to say that a lot. I might just say goclase or olig, just to make it easier on me, because I'm not going to be able to say oligoclase too many times. That is a promise. That's a Tom Joyce guarantee. So that's also the thing that I like so much about these stones is minute differences that change what you call it and what you disclose it as. So what is that difference between them? What is oligoclase? I told you, you jinxed me, Shane. He said I said it 3 times. So what's the difference between oli and ortho? And let's see if I can explain it, because I might be able to, I might not. So we're going to focus on the stone. I'm going to look at my cheat sheet because I got a nice little triangle drawing that we're going to try and get made at some point. So orthoclase is at the higher end, like I said, with the potassium, right? And it's got that alkali. So down at the other end with the oligoclase, it's a variety of albite. So it's in the plagioclase feldspars, that area. So it's plagioclase. See, this is so difficult. Feldspars, you're out. You're done. That's why garnet is so simple. I can say garnet. I can say uvarovite. I can say, you know, all kinds of things. Molygarnet, spessartine. I'm just rattling them off right now. Feldspar is too difficult, and that's what makes you special. I get that. So I'm back on board. I'm back on board. So it's a framework silicate. So rather than referring to a particular mineral with a specific chemical composition, plagioclase is a continuous solid solution series. So it just kind of changes as like that chemical comes in. It's slight changes. It's still plagioclase, but you have oligoclase. Do you see how difficult this is and why I have to have a cheat sheet? It's really hard. So it's basically just a chemical has come out and has changed. It's still colorless. You know, you wouldn't have the agilurescence in it. And this, honestly, this is the first time I have ever seen a stone like this in front of me that I picked up with my tweezers. In all of my gemology training, I never came across one of these stones. And they put every single stone in front of you that they can think that you're going to see in your everyday gemology career. And there's a lot of them too. Kyanite. Kyanite, even in my gemology book, says you'll probably never see one of these in your life. In the first 15 years I worked here, I probably saw 5,000 to 7,000 faceted kyanites. Is it rare? Yes. But the buying power that we have, we want to bring rare stuff to the forefront. Now, something like this, I probably won't see another one. I probably won't see another Ole in 8 years. I know I'll see them because I see them at trade shows. The person we got this from specializes in things like this. But for me to actually have one on my desk, extremely rare, extremely rare. Now, this is a high sodium feldspar. So the one before it was a potassium feldspar. So they're on different ends of the spectrum. So that's the big difference in the identification of this. So it is something that you just don't see. Now, oligoclase, and I would like to go back to find the person who gave it. The first real instance of this was in 1826. And it's from the ancient Greek to mean little fracture. It just, I kind of like that name, but it was thought to have less than perfect cleavage, so they just call it little fracture, and that's how we get this word. So let's give this one an update. Let's give this one a refresher. Like, maybe we can call it Tom tonight. Like, I like that. It's easy, it rolls off the tongue. The beginning part of it is kind of just perfect, you know, that T-O-M, it's got such a punch to it. It's simple, it's classic, it's traditional, and it's just so easy to say. It's so much easier to say than oligoclase. And I had to close my eyes to say it. You know, when you're really thinking about something and you really have to slowly think about it and say it and you close your eyes? Oligoclase. Ooh, let me try it with the other one. Plagioclase. All right, if my eyes close, Shane, when I have to say these words, you can't show me on camera because I'm going to be closing my eyes. So this had previously been recognized as a distinct species in 1824, and it was named soda spodumene because of its resemblance in appearance. I actually like that one. I might like that more than Tom tonight. Like, let's Sodagoclase. Like, let's mash these worlds up. Like, it would be so much easier for me if we called it Sodagoclase. It's like I'm just talking out into the ether. This isn't directed at anybody out there. Unless you can make this change happen, like, let's make it happen. So that was oligoclase. I said it. Sodaspodumene, whatever you want to call it. Little break. We'll call it little break. So as you know, when we do these shows, I like to save kind of the best for last. And I say best just because what it is, the rarity of such, how cool it is, and really the size. Now, if you go to jtv.com/extra, it's the easiest shopping experience you're ever going to come across. And it's something where you can click down at the bottom where it says shop, and it'll show you every single thing that's in the show. So if you already did that, you're going to know what this is. So as this comes around, you're seeing a deep red color that's inside of it. You're also seeing an interesting metallic luster that comes across. Now, the metallic luster is what makes this stone so cool. Now, I also see my fingerprints on it. So let me wipe this off real quick, and I'll talk to you real quick. So this stone came from a super just beautiful deposit where most of the stones over a carat in this came out from this one deposit, and it's in Onganja, Namibia. Now, this is kind of a farming area. This is already mined out. There is no more coming out of this area. And when I say mined out, it just means we haven't found it in a while. It could open up. They could go a couple of kilometers up the road, and they'll find another little pocket. They haven't yet, so that's a big thing to say. Now, the former curator at one of the biggest museums in the world said they don't know, and it's almost impossible to estimate, how many over 2 carat stones of this material are out there. But in saying that, He also said, faceted cooperite, I just told you what it is, faceted cooperite of any size, and this is a quote from him, is considered one of the most collectible and spectacular gems in existence. Only the gem's soft nature is what holds it back from being set inside of jewelry. So one of the other things that's really interesting in this is a copper-bearing stone. So with copper-bearing stones, what is it that everyone knows about copper? It has a patina on it. So it oxidizes once it hits air. So that's what you're seeing when you see that nice metallic luster, is an oxidation that goes over the top of that stone. So can you polish it off? Yeah, probably, but it's going to be exposed to air again. So what are we doing here, Nicholas? It's going to oxidize again. Just enjoy that patina. That's what's so important here. Now, this is a fantastic cut for a soft stone. It really is. The luster is submetallic to adamantine. So adamantine is what you see with diamonds, zircons, really, really high dispersion stones. So with this stone, to have this wonderful color, and the color hides really well. So I even said, you know, the number of faceted gems over 2 carats is difficult to estimate. This one in front of you is 19.79 carats. So that's well over. I brought back, when I got this, I think it was 5 maybe cooperites, and they're all over 11 carats. So really big sizes, but also extremely rare. Now, rarity comes with a price tag. This is $2,775. It's a 12.3 millimeter square cushion, and it is a soft stone, so I'm going to put my fingerprints back on it so I can flip it back over. I don't want to pick it up with tweezers because I don't want to get any scratches on it. So, you know, almost all the crystals that you'll find are too small to yield faceted gemstones. It's just, that's what it is. So to have these big stones and such a rare mineral, it's almost something that we're lucky that they faceted them. I've never actually seen this in its mineral form out on the market of all the shows that I've gone to. I've never really seen this. I would love to see one because I bet it's just stunning. If it gives us faceted material like this, I have no doubt that it would be just a beautiful specimen. Now, this was first described in 1845, so that's kind of how old this was when it was found. And the name comes from the Latin cuprum for its, you know, copper content. Easy to see how they do that. But this is a stone that really, you know, one thing that I really try to do in all of these shows is I want there to be a price point for every kind of collector, right? So the two feldspars, they're really right in that entry level, the entry level collector. The tantalite and triplite, they're in that I have a collection, I'm proud of my collection, and I kind of want to hit that next level. Now this is for someone who, they're showing off. That's all I'm going to say. This is a show-off stone. Almost 20 carats, super rare, and when you have a curator from a very nice museum located in Washington, D.C., I don't want to say the name because, you know, it's a name, but you can think in your head, if you know great American museums that have great collections, you know which one this is. And for what he's seen, to him to have that kind of high praise about a stone like this, it really says a lot. Now, I want to stop that because one of the things that I'm really blown away by as we're seeing this is how unique this cut is too. Because you would call this a mixed cut because you can kind of see the way the faceting is down on the bottom with the triangles that are on there. And then you have that blocky rectangle cut that's on the side. Now, look at the red that flashes out of this stone when you hit it right. This really is just a beautiful red color, and it's that oxidation that really hides it from popping out and really coming out really well. So you can see the little triangles and kites that are here on the bottom and the diamond pattern. And then to get this blocky on the side, the blocky squares that you'll see, sorry, that's one of the hardest things to do is try and get reflections of the facets right there. That leads into the smaller squares on what would be the crown, coming up to a big square table that has my fingerprint all over it, that really lets that light into it. So everything about this stone, this stone has so much going on to it. And if you go to the website, if you go to jadora.com, you'll be able to see all the other Cooprites that we have on there. We even had some cabochon Cooprites for a while, and I think those sold very quickly. Cooprite's one of those stones that, of course, it comes from Arizona. How could it not? That's where you'll see a lot of the cabochon Cooprites is from Arizona. But go to jadora.com, look up Cooprite, look up the gemologist picks, because that's one of the ones that we're really proud about, the gemologist picks, because they're the ones that don't come across our desk every day. You know, we see amethyst every day, topaz, citrine, rhodolite garnet. Even though garnet's one of my favorites, it really wouldn't be one of my gemologist picks because I see it so often. But Cooprite, afghanite, beryllinite, all those interesting stones that aren't top of mind, those are the ones that are going to land in the gemologist picks because they're so rare and unique, and they're the ones that we get the most excited about when they come into the building. So beauty is one thing, which you can see with this Cooprite, but everything else about it just makes it, I want this in my cabinet at home. Someday I'll get one, and I hope someday you will too. Thanks so much for watching. I'll be here tomorrow with Rob. We're going to go over some beryl, got some Heliodor. I think I'm even going to bring in my emerald specimens from home to show everybody. And I guarantee we're going to have fun. So please tune in and watch. Thanks so much for watching this one.